Could Alexander Isak really rip up his Newcastle contract and walk into Liverpool for free? The idea sounds outrageous, almost impossible, but this summer's most dramatic transfer saga has pushed fans and pundits alike into asking the question. A £150 million rated striker leaving one of the Premier League's richest clubs for nothing, only to show up at Anfield as the missing piece of a new Liverpool attack, is the kind of fantasy headline that normally belongs in the realm of gossip. Yet when you dig beneath the surface and explore the strange world of FIFA regulations, English contract law, and recent legal precedents, the picture becomes far more intriguing and far more dangerous for Newcastle United. Newcastle's summer window was supposed to be about adding depth and quality. Jacob Ramsey, Anthony Elanga, Aaron Ramsdale, and Malik Thiaw all arrived as exciting reinforcements. But instead of celebrating these signings, the mood at St. James's Park has been overshadowed by a tense standoff with their star striker. Alexander Isak, who joined the club only 2 years ago, has made it clear that he wants out. Liverpool tested the waters with an audacious £110 million bid, which Newcastle instantly rejected. The Magpies made their stance firm. Their talismanic striker would only be sold if an acceptable bid came in, and for them that figure edges towards £150 million. But Isak wasn't impressed. He accused the club of breaking promises, hinting at irreparable damage in their relationship. And while Newcastle denied his claims, the fallout left him training alone and frozen out of matchday squads. That is how this saga has turned from footballing frustration into legal brinkmanship. When players feel trapped, there is always one nuclear option they can consider: unilaterally terminating their contract. Every professional footballer has this right, but it comes with consequences. FIFA's rules state that if a player ends a contract without just cause during the protected period, they risk severe sporting sanctions such as lengthy bans. For players under 28, that protected period lasts 3 years or 3 full seasons, whichever comes first. In Isak's case, having signed for Newcastle in August 2022, that period doesn't expire until August 26, 2025. That means if he tears up his deal before that date without a legally valid reason, FIFA could step in to ban him. After that point, however, the picture changes. Once the protected period ends, he could theoretically terminate and move elsewhere, even Liverpool, without FIFA being able to impose sporting sanctions. Yet the Premier League isn't governed solely by FIFA. English contract law would immediately come into play if Isak attempted such a move. Newcastle could argue breach of contract in the courts, and while no judge could force him to play for them again, it's entirely possible they could prevent him from turning out for another Premier League side, at least until compensation was sorted. Imagine Liverpool unveiling their new striker to a sea of red scarves, only for legal action to keep him off the pitch for months. It would be unprecedented, messy, and the kind of spectacle that would dominate football discourse across the globe. And here's where history makes things even more complicated. In 2014, former Arsenal and Chelsea midfielder Lassana Diarra tore up his contract with Lokomotiv Moscow. FIFA hit him with a 15-month suspension and a huge fine, but Diarra fought his case all the way to the European Court of Justice. Years later, the ruling went in his favor, declaring that sections of FIFA's system restricted workers' rights and violated EU competition law. It was a landmark moment that forced FIFA to rethink its regulations, opening the door for future players to challenge the transfer system. Suddenly, what had seemed like a career-killing move became a case study in how flawed the rules truly were. For Isak, the Diarra precedent is a reminder that walking away is not entirely uncharted territory. For Liverpool, the idea of Isak arriving for free would be nothing short of a dream. Slotting the Swedish striker alongside Mohamed Salah and Darwin Núñez could provide the kind of clinical edge that defines title-winning sides. For a club that has often been accused of being cautious in the transfer market, pulling off the biggest heist of modern football, stealing a £150 million striker without paying a penny, would be an era-defining coup. For Newcastle, however, it would be the nightmare scenario, not just because they would lose their record signing for nothing, but because it would set a precedent that other players could follow, threatening the very financial stability of modern football. The crucial question remains, will Isak actually do it? On paper, the legal loopholes exist. The possibility is real, but in practice, the risks are enormous. If he attempted to terminate before August 2025, FIFA could suspend him and derail his career. Even after that date, the uncertainty of English courts and the Football Association makes it a gamble with no guaranteed outcome. And with the player only 25 years old, entering his prime years, and facing a World Cup on the horizon, the idea of sitting out months of competitive football seems almost self-destructive. Still, the whispers won't go away. Each day that Isak trains away from his teammates, each day that Newcastle refused to budge, the thought of the nuclear option lingers in the background. Could Liverpool pull off the most audacious signing of the century, not with money, but with timing and legal leverage? Could one of the Premier League's most sought-after strikers actually walk away for free? The truth is that, while the likelihood remains slim, the possibility is enough to keep the football world glued to every twist of this saga. Because this is no longer just a transfer story, It's a battle between club power and player power, between tradition and modern law, between the established order and the free movement of labor. And as long as Alexander Isak remains in limbo, Liverpool fans will continue to dream of the impossible, their new number 9 walking through the gates of Anfield, not for £150 million, but for nothing at all. But for nothing at all,